run out of time. I want to introduce Rabbi David Shatai from BRS. He's a member. He has a number of roles there. One of which is the Sephardi rabbi at BRS. He also teaches at the Yeshiva High School in Boca, and he's also taught in the past at YU. He has his medical degree from YU Medical School, and his topic is. You can't say everybody. Yes, you can't say everybody. Who we just say? Who should you say? And that sounds like a very interesting topic. Thank you very much.
Right?
Yes, that's the clock will go by whether it's accurate or not.
Well, that's the one that we're relying on. Okay. Thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here to represent the BRS Kollel. This is the 6th annual summer Kollel that we're running. I'm only informally involved with it this year. In the past, I was Rosh Kollel. I ran it again this year. And this year, there's 20 guys, all you guys, learning there all day. And at night, they're learning with community members. It really creates a wonderful thing. And it's thanks to the support of the community. It really adds to the whole, I think, not just in the BRS proper. I think it really is testament to our South Florida community that this is something that we find important and that we run this year in the various shuls. In the summer is often considered to be, in terms of programming in the shul, it's a little bit lighter, it's a little bit easier. And it's really a wonderful thing to be able to participate in this and to spread Torah even in the lighter months. Okay. So the topic for today is impossible choices, who to save when you can't save everybody. And so these questions of triage come up in a number of different circumstances. If you look at the back, there's somewhat of an outline. We're going to be loosely following the outline. I thought about this year when there was a question about there was an Ebola epidemic in West Africa. Now every so often, every couple of years, I don't know the epidemiology behind it, Ebola becomes an issue. It's a life-threatening disease. It's very dangerous. And the question was, well, should we send our personnel over there to help deal with it? They were overwhelmed. The countries in West Africa were overwhelmed. They could not deal with it on their own. They needed our expertise. They needed our care. They needed our resources. And so should we send? So why not? Of course we should send people over there. Why wouldn't we send people over there? Well, there are a couple of things to think about. First of all, it's risky. Ebola is a life-threatening the Ebola virus is a life-threatening virus. This is a big deal. Yes, you can take standard precautions, and you can take extended precautions, and I'm sure every medical doctor can tell you of cases where they know that despite the precautions, things happen. So, I live over here, I can just avoid having to travel over the Atlantic and make it over to West Africa, and I won't be at risk at all, and I'm putting myself at risk. Particularly living there, it's not just I'm going to work there, I'm going to live there for X number of weeks, months, to help treat these people, so I'm putting myself at risk. But the larger issue is the question of resource allocation. I mean, who are we sending there? We're sending our own medical professionals from over here, which means that there are patients here who aren't going to be cared for. There are therapies here that aren't going to be treated. We're not going to be funding it. There's only a limited amount of money. You got to decide how to allocate your resources appropriately. And this is a plague. This is an epidemic. Now, you can think about it, and one way to think about it was, you know what? This is West Africa. It's far enough away. If I have to allocate my medical dollars, I'm going to allocate them to fighting disease, to treating patients, more locally. And that's one way of thinking. However, in today's global age, where people are flying back and forth in 2 seconds, it doesn't really exist anymore. There are very few isolated diseases. There are very few isolated viruses. It's somewhat isolated, but it will get to South Florida sooner or later. It'll come all over the place because people are traveling, people are moving. There's only so much you can do. And so on some level, I might be protecting myself by dealing with it over there as opposed to waiting until it gets to the United States and spreading even greater. Because once it reaches us, it's going to reach a lot more people. It's a lot easier to deal with it when it's localized. So maybe it makes more sense to do that. Now, how do we make these types of resource allocation decisions? So that's one way to frame this question to think about. The second way, this comes up in Israel, unfortunately, a lot of questions of terror attacks. And how do you deal with allocating resources in that sort of situation? And the question is well, people, there's an attack, and the emergency personnel show up at the scene, and there are a number of injured, and I don't really have all the information on them right now. I show up, and who do I treat first? Unfortunately, it's not always one person, and sometimes there are a number. How do I decide who to treat? Now, the Israeli system is somewhat different, I'm told. I don't really know much about the emergency system in Israel. But the emergency system in Israel is different than the emergency system in much of the United States. Now, if you remember the Boston Marathon bombing, so if you looked at the pictures from it, it seemed like quite a crowded area. It seemed like, and again, I'm no expert in this at all, but relatively speaking, only a few people died. Relatively speaking, this was a failed attack. Now, yes, people died and it's tragic, and I'm not mitigating that in any way. However, on the scale of things, it seems like they were anticipating something a lot much worse. There were a number of wounded, a lot of wounded, very few died. So why is that? It's not like the terror attack was in the parking lot of the hospital. So why is that? I don't know. That's in the hands of the Coast Guard. However, there was a conference we held at YU about, I don't know what the topic was, and there was the Israeli mission that went to Haiti after the earthquake. So if you remember a couple of years ago, there was an earthquake in Haiti, and Israel sent the mission there and opened a hospital and really ran things in an efficient way, more so than the other countries. So the person who ran that mission was there. So he was reflecting on the Boston Marathon incident, and he pointed out that the Boston emergency system personnel, whoever sets policies and procedures in place, had just trained by the Israeli system. The people in charge there had trained by the Israelis. This is what to learn. And so, as he put it, there are two general methods, I'm sure there are others, of dealing with emergency situations. There's what the Israelis do, called scoop and run. There's a patient, get him to the hospital as quickly as possible. There's a situation, scoop and run, don't do anything, just get this person to the hospital as soon as possible. That is the Israeli system. Now the other option, what else are you going to do, is, and he called it in a derogatory way, stay and play. Meaning, stabilize the patient, and then transport him. I don't want to transport a patient who's not stable. Makes a lot of sense. Stabilize an airway, make sure the person's breathing, see what I can do, start CPR, start something, not going to do surgery on the floor, but do something, stabilize him, and then go. And that's what we do mostly in this country. Now, if I would have asked you which makes more sense, I don't know. I think from a logical perspective, there are pros and there are advantages and disadvantages to both approaches. I wouldn't be able to determine, but the Israelis showed, statistically speaking, that the scoop and run works better. Statistically speaking, scoop and run works better. It just saves more lives. And that's what they're claiming they did in Boston, which they're claiming is that's what resulted in having such few fatalities in the Boston Marathon incident. And so in Israel, you now have a different type of situation, almost not by terror attack. So by terror attack, they used to show up, and I remember there was a bombing in Ben Yehuda or in Machne Yehuda, and there were so many people, these pictures of people strewn about, and then when they are approaching, so the person, I remember what specific, I have a picture in my mind, I don't remember what it was, there was an attack towards the center of the shul. And so the emergency personnel arrive on the street, and they arrive from the outside, that's how you enter the shul, and there were people injured on the outskirts. Now those people were not at the epicenter of the attack. They were sort of on the outskirts, so they're injured a little bit less. Some of these life-threatening injuries, but the people who are closer have far more severe injuries, so what do you do now? Now, you don't really know. You're the emergency responder, you're the EMT, you're coming to the end, there's someone here who needs help. Now, I can see that there are other people there, but I can't really assess them from here. I just see someone who needs help, so what do? Do I treat this person first because he's closest to me? Or do I try to figure out who's sickest? Now, while I'm figuring out who is the most sick, I'm wasting time. So, there's a lot that has to go into it. How do you make those decisions? We should never have to deal with that. These are intuitions and gut feelings, and whatever decisions the person makes on the spot, we trust that they're making them with the best of faith, with the best intentions in mind, and we don't question. But the situation, because they're doing this scoop and run, you have a little bit of a different situation, because they're just grabbing people, putting them in an ambulance. So you have 10 ambulances coming to the hospital, for example, and now, 8-minute drive to the hospital, 6-minute drive to the hospital, 5-minute drive, whatever it is, the EMTs are getting information on each patient. They're stabilizing the patient to the best of their ability in the ambulance, and they're getting baseline information. And they're transmitting that to the hospital. The hospital is going to get all of this information. There's not the handoff that they show on TV always say, the EMTs are yelling at the doctor, telling them that all of this information is all electronically already received by the hospital. By the time the hospital receives the patient, they have all the vitals. It's all being maintained in live, the blood pressure is being maintained both live in the ambulance as well in the hospital. So the hospital is getting all of these patients, they have data on all the patients. Preliminary data. So they're able to make a much more educated decision about now, how am I going to allocate resources? There's a very tragic story about one of there was a terror attack a number of years ago, quite a while ago. And the Israeli system, when they started organizing this, they weren't it wasn't very organized in Yerushalayim particularly, but how to deal with these terror attacks, how to deal with this triage and allocation of resources. And so there wasn't a panic, there was a terror attack, and a number of ambulances were coming in, and they just needed all hands on deck. They just started paging everybody. That was the thing at the time. Everyone got paged, just show up. Anyone who knows anything, just come, be a pair of hands, help out, just show up. And they're paging the person in charge, was Dr. Applebaum. Remember Dr. Applebaum? They're paging him and paging him and paging him. He's the one who put this whole system into place, and he's not coming until they realized that one of the patients on the gurney, it was his beeper that was going off. He was one of the son killed in that attack. Him and his daughter was elected for the wedding. It was very tragic. It was a very tragic event. But he, as a Colonel Gruffalo, was responsible for really putting this whole system in place. They credit him. I remember talking to Dr. Abraham, who was the chief of internal medicine, Shari Sedlik, the author of the Svarim, very close from Sam Orbach, that they credited him for really putting this whole system in place that really was able to save a lot of lives. And so now this hospital gets 10 patients. They know they're coming in, and they don't have 10 days. They don't have the ability to deal with all 10 patients. They just don't. So what do? How do you make a decision? And let's say they also, I know it's unlikely, they all show up at exactly the same time at the door. So now what do? You have patients who are in a more life-threatening situation, who are more sick, let's say. So I could try to save their life, but it's going to require more resources. They're more sick. They're more injured. They're going to require more resources. Or do I say, well, these people are a little bit less sick, so normally I would say, well, treat the sickest person first. But here I have patients that are a little bit less injured, but I would be able to allocate my resources to save more people as opposed to saving one person. So how do I make that decision? And then what if, it's not always just save one versus save five. It doesn't work like that. We all know that. It's no guarantee. What if the chances of saving the one are greater than saving the five? Saving the one, that if I really put all my resources to it, I'll be able to save them. And these five, they're in pretty bad shape. They're in pretty bad shape. They're in pretty bad shape. The likelihood of them making it is very low. I can try, put in the valiant effort, I can take them all to surgery and try, but stabilizing them in the emergency room and transporting them to surgery and prepping a surgical room and getting anesthesiology involved and that's a lot of resources that I'm not going to be able to, so I'll be able to deal with 5 patients, but then again I won't be able to deal with this one who, let's say, has a 60% chance of making it. Now again, we can talk about all this in the abstract because I'm making up numbers and I'm pretending that this is all absolutes. When you're in the field, there's no, it's 60 versus 58%, that doesn't really work. So we're pretending a little bit that we can make these decisions, and we have that ability because we're stepping back. So how do we make these decisions? What are the guidelines in halacha for determinants? So the very famous Kosher of the Basaris, source Aleph here on the sheet, talks about the following. The Gemara seems to differentiate between what we call Chaye Olam and Chaye Shah. Chaye Olam, translated, means living forever, and nobody's going to live forever. So Chaye Olam certainly doesn't mean the person has the ability to live forever. That's absurd. We know that. The Gemara is clear about that. Chaye Olam means, barring the specific circumstances we're talking about now, what's the person's life expectancy? Is he going to live to 110, 120? Barring this incident right now, what was his life expectancy? If a person's ill, otherwise with other chronic conditions, their life expectancy will be less. But Chaye Olam means that barring this current incident right now, they will live till whatever the life expectancy is projected. Chaye Shah means less than that. Chaye Shah means that, unfortunately, because of something that's happening right now, they are not going to die right now. Maybe I can give them an hour, 2 hours, 12 hours, a day, a week, a month. That's called Chaye Shah. Now the Gemara says, there's a story in the Navi that talks about the Arba Mitzoraim. Now the Arba Mitzoraim were sitting outside of the, we read it, this is a Haftarah that we read from Parshas Mitzorah, that it's in Sefer Malachim. They're sitting outside of the city because the Mitzorah was not allowed into a walled city. They had to be sent outside of the walled city because they're coming. And they're outside this walled city and there's a siege on the city by, I forget what the enemy was, and so there's no food. So these people they're starving. So they say, well, what are we going to do? So they can't get into the city because they're not going to let them in. They're certainly not opening. Forget the Tuma and Para issues. They're not opening the doors. They're just not opening the doors. Because if you open the doors, they'll live in Sarayim, and so the enemies can come in also. So you're not opening the doors. So they say, well, maybe we should turn ourselves over to the enemy. Maybe they'll let us live. So they say, well, if we turn ourselves over to the enemy, they might kill us today. They might kill us, we might die right now. They might not care that we're asking for mercy and we're so right. They don't. They're going to kill us today. Or they might let us live and we'll be their slaves. And there are worse things, but we'll be alive. Or we could wait here and die from starvation. So what should we do? So if we do nothing, so we'll die from starvation in about a week. I'm making up numbers. If we take this gamble and go to the enemy, I could die now, or I might live my expected lifespan. So what should I do? Do they have a right to risk the next 7 days? Because if they do nothing, they'll live for 7 days, for example. If they run this risk, they might have a risk of giving up their life. Now, why does the Gemara assume that we're going to learn a halacha from these Arba Mitzoraim? It's an interesting question, but we assume yes. And the Mitzoraim, in fact, go to the enemy camp, and they try to turn themselves in, and it turns out that Hashem vanquished the enemy, there was nobody there, and then all of the Israel were saved. Fine. But you see what the calculation was. They were able to gamble. They had Chayei Shah. They had a short amount of life left, 7 days. And they were allowed to gamble their Chayei Shah, because they would have died today. There's a possibility they would die today, and not live for the rest of the week, in order to try to get Chayei Olam. So you're allowed to gamble Chayei Shah in order to get Chayei Olam. So Tosfos says, you might think from here that Chayei Shah is meaningless. Chayei Shah, yes, no, a couple of days here and there, you're allowed to risk it. It's meaningless, it doesn't matter. And Tosfos says, absolutely not. Tosfos says, you're right, you're allowed to gamble Chayei Shah for Chayei. I'm allowed to gamble my week in order to get to my full life expectancy. That's fine. But Chayei Shah, otherwise, Chayei Shah is just as important as Chayei Olam. So, practically speaking, that means if I have to violate Shabbos to save someone's life, I certainly violate Shabbos to save someone's life, my question says. What if the person's really ill? The person's holding by 119 and a half years old, and I'm not going to do it. I'm not. But I can grant them another call. I can help them. If I intercede, they'll get another day, another week, another month. But it's Shabbos. So Tosfos says, don't ever think for a moment that you're only allowed to violate Shabbos to cure somebody. You're allowed to violate Shabbos even for Chayei Shah. Chayei Shah, giving someone Chayei Shah, fulfills the mitzvah of saving life, and therefore Chayei Shah is equally as important as Chayei Olam. So how exactly does that work? When Chayei Shah, they're vastly different, no? So Rabbi Jacobovitz, the previous chief rabbi of I never remember if it's the United Kingdom or Great Britain, but of England, that's the ignorant American we're talking. I apologize to all the Queen subjects. So he put it this way, he said, life we know is of infinite value, and every moment of life is of infinite value. And so if every moment of life is of infinite value, so then 100 infinities is no greater than 4 infinities. Now don't confuse me with the facts if there are any mathematicians. I know there are different types of infinity, and that's a little bit more fancy than I can handle. But for simple people like me, 1 infinity is no greater than another infinity. So this guy has 100 years to live, and this guy has 5 days to live. So 100 infinities is no different than 5 infinities. Infinity is infinity. Life, Chayei Shah is just equal to Chayei Olam, because that's the way it is. Life is of infinite value. The mitzvah is fulfilled no matter what. Fine. So now I have a problem though. How am I ever going to choose who to treat? If I have Chayei Shah or Chayei Olam, now why do I derive from the halacha? That there's no difference. I'm not allowed to make a decision. That's not up to me. The Torah says Chayei Shah, Chayei Olam. You're right, one's shorter than the other. Might not be shorter than the other. Relatively speaking, Chayei Shah is shorter than the expected lifespan. Chayei Olam is the expected lifespan. So how do I ever? I shouldn't be allowed to make a distinction between the two. So that's issue number 1 that we'll have to deal with. The second issue that we really have to deal with is what I mentioned earlier, is that I'm saying all of this as if they're absolutes. Again, we can say this guy, not say this guy, say this guy, say that guy. It doesn't work that way. Even if there's a 70% to 80% chance of saving somebody, that still means there's a 20% chance it's not going to work. So we know the halacha is that for Safek people Shabbos, we violate Shabbos even when we don't know the chances. We don't know if we'll be successful. But the Shulchan Aruch goes farther than that. If you look here in source 3, it's listed as Gimel. So the Shulchan Aruch here is in the halachas of Refuah Shabbos, and it's interesting to note. I don't know why this is in the Gemara. Whenever they need an example of a life-saving cure, it's always a fig. Figs save lives. Why? I don't know exactly, but it's always a fig. So it's Amdu Arofim Shetzarch Brogeres Achas. This guy is dying, and what's going to save his life is a single fig. The man needs a single fig to save his life. If the fig out of it, the science out of it, the idea is still important. So if I get up and say someone needs a fig to save their life, so everyone runs out of the room, finds the closest fig tree, picks a fig, and comes running in. Okay, but I only need one. So everyone ran out and got a fig, but the fastest person already gave him the fig, and I said, the magical fig saved his life. So now I have approximately 25 extra figs that I don't need. And 25 people who, did they buy the Chamas? Or is it absolutely necessary? No, I only need one fig, and 25 people went and got figs, so I have 24 extra figs, so they were picked. Not for the purpose of Pikuach Nefesh. So he says, Kulam Pturim. Everyone's accepted. And now in an uncharacteristic statement, the Shulchan Aruch adds in the following line. Now the Shulchan Aruch usually tells you what's okay, what's not okay, mutar, usar, allowed, not allowed. He adds in the following line, V'yesh lahem sachar tov me'et Hashem, afilu hivri barishon. All those extra 24 people, not only are they exempt, but they get rewarded from God. Even if the first fig cured them. So why is that? Why is that? 24 people wanted to save a life, but they didn't. They didn't. 24 people tried. They didn't. If I try to pick up a lulav, and I try my best to buy a lulav, and I don't have one, but I really, really, really try hard to buy a lulav, and it's sukkahs, and I don't have one, I tried. It's a good midah to have, to try your best to do a mitzvah, but in the end of the day, I didn't accomplish the mitzvah. If I put on tefillin every day, but then I find out that the tefillin is empty, I was ripped off when I bought my tefillin. There's actually nothing in the tefillin box. So have I fulfilled the mitzvah? No. Now, I'm hoping that Hakadosh Baruch will have some leniency. I'm trusting somebody else here. But did I do the mitzvah? Did I fulfill the mitzvah of tefillin? No. If someone's asking for it stuck and someone rushes and runs in front of me and hands him the dollar, and then the guy runs away, I didn't give it to him. I wanted to. So that's good. I should want to do mitzvahs. Correct. I want to do mitzvahs. We should try to inculcate values and mitzvahs that we want to do mitzvahs. But in the end of the day, I didn't do it. In the end of the day, I didn't do it. So why here, these 24 people, they wanted to do a mitzvah. They picked a fig on Shabbos. So okay, they were mitzvah. We'll allow them to take the figs. But why Yesh and Sachar Tov Beis Hashem? Why do they get rewarded for this? I understand we won't punish them. We won't punish them because we want to encourage people to do this. We want to encourage people that when someone needs a fig on Shabbos, someone needs an ambulance, someone needs something that, you have 24 people in the room, 25 people in the room, and says, well, only one of us needs to call the ambulance. If all of us call an ambulance, then 24 people violated Shabbos. It's not going to be me. And you know what's going to happen at the end of the day. Too many cooks in the kitchen, nothing gets cooked. No one will end up calling the ambulance. So I get why everyone's exempt. Everyone called an ambulance, and only one made it, fine, everyone's exempt. I get it, fine. We want to encourage that type of behavior. We want to encourage people to save lives. So I get it, that's fine. But why Yesh them Sachar Tov Beis Hashem? And they get extra reward. They exempted them, I understand. I don't want to hold them liable, I want everyone to be comfortable doing it. But why Sachar Tov Beis Hashem? They didn't do the mitzvah. They wanted to. They tried. But the tefillin was empty. The lulav didn't come. So why is it? It's one of the only mitzvahs where it seems like you didn't accomplish the goal at all. I didn't do the mitzvah. So why is it? How is it different? So there's one other mitzvah that I know of, at least I'm sure you can come up with others, where you have a parallel situation. The first mitzvah given in the Torah is for Revu to have children. And if you look in the translation, it says the mitzvah is to have children. Now, only very naive people believe that they're in control of this. Only very naive people, high school students I teach sometimes, believe that they're in control of whether or not they're going to have children. Whether or not we have children is really up to God. We all know people who struggle, we all know people who continue to struggle, we all know people who do it, we all know people who don't. And it's not really up to them. This is to give children our gift from Hashem. Not everyone's able to do it. So how can there be a mitzvah to do something that I'm not in control of? How can Hashem command me to do something that in the end of the day, it's not up to me? First of all, it's not up to me, because each one of us is only one person, and we still need a partner. Men need women, women need men, you can't do this on your own. So that's firstly. You need someone to agree to do this. But secondly, even if you're both in agreement, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen. It's a bracha. You need Hashem's intervention. So how could there be a mitzvah to have children? And if you look in the Rambam actually doesn't say that there's a mitzvah to have children. It says it's mistranslated. The mitzvah is to try to have children. The mitzvah is to do whatever you can to have children. The goal is to have children. But the mitzvah is to do whatever you can to try. Why? Because I can't hold you liable for more than that. The only thing I can require a person to do is what they're able to do. They're only able to try. And you look at the Gemara in Shabbos, and Gemara in Shabbos says there are 3 questions that you get asked when you go into Shamayim after 120. It's not Did you have children? That's often how it's translated. The actual language is asakta bepirya vrivya. Did you engage in having children? Not that you actually have them. But did you engage in having them? Because that's the mitzvah. Now the goal is to have them. So once you have them, you fulfill the mitzvah. But you're exempt from having to fulfill it again. You're exempt. But the mitzvah is to try to have children because it's not something that I control, frankly. And that's why the mitzvah is to try your best. So the same thing with the mitzvah of saving a life, if you think about it. It's not up to me whether a person's life is saved. I can try my best. I can do everything I can use every method I have, I can use every expert in technology that's available to me, but whether or not I save the life is ultimately up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not up to me, so how can I be going to save a life? It's not up to me. So if I try, and life, and in the end of the day, I'm sorry. So you'll tell me what? If a patient's really, really sick, I'm not going to bother, because the likelihood of me getting the mitzvah is less. No, because the mitzvah isn't actually going to save life. That's the goal. The mitzvah is to try to save the life. The mitzvah is to do whatever you can to save the life. The goal is clearly to save a life. However, that's not the mitzvah. The mitzvah is to do whatever you can in order to do it. The mitzvah is to try my best. That's the mitzvah. If I save the life, so that's good, I accomplished the goal. But if I didn't, I still fulfilled the mitzvah of Pikuach Nefesh. So all those 25 people who got figs, even though only one of them was necessary, all those 24 people engaged in the mitzvah of Pikuach Nefesh. That's what the Shulchan is telling us. They all, you're right, they weren't all necessary to save their life, but they were all engaged in saving life. They all did whatever they could to save the life, and therefore they fulfilled the mitzvah of Pikuach Nefesh, even though the goal was accomplished without them, or even if the goal wasn't accomplished. The mitzvah is not to save a life. We talk about this mitzvah to save a life, and I'm going to slip and say it a number of times. But that's the goal, clearly. But the mitzvah is to try to do whatever I can. And so, when we take that perspective, it's important, especially when dealing with allocating resources or these triage situations, that as long as we're acting in good faith, as long as we're trying our best at fulfilling the mitzvah of Pikuach Nefesh. So even if certainly those people who have to make the decisions on the spot, and I can't imagine what's going through an emergency responder's mind when they show up at a terrorist attack, and they got to figure out who to treat. And this is a life or death decision for 1, 2, 10, 15 people. They have to know that whatever decision they make, as long as it's made in good faith to try to save a life, and fulfill the mitzvah of Pikuach Nefesh. So it's a lot reassuring. It means that as long as we're acting in good faith, the mitzvah is fulfilled. And on the spot, that's what we're going to rely on. But now we're trying to create a system. Or now in the hospital that's trying to take in these patients, and I have to assess how to allocate my resources. So you're right, no matter how I do it, I'm going to fulfill the mitzvah. But how do I decide what to do? Now this question comes up in another context as well, I forgot to mention it. A number of years ago, in the New York area, the tri-state area, much of the Northeast, there was a concern for a swine flu pandemic. Now, swine flu was just another type of flu, but it was pretty infectious. And the concern was that we had examples of this in history. In 1917, there was a flu pandemic, and flu spread really, really, really quickly, more quickly than we were able to deal with it. And a lot of people died. I don't remember the numbers, but it was a lot of people. It was really scary. And so the concern was that the flu is going to spread so quickly again, and we're not going to be able to contain it properly, and a lot of people are going to be sick. And so what do these sick people need? The flu doesn't kill on the spot. So what's going to happen? So let's say, for example, I'm going to create the infectious disease people might get upset, but let's say there's a 5-day window of illness in New York City, and the flu is going to spread among those 5 days. So who's going to get sick on day 1? People who are going to get sick on day 1 will be the very young, the very old, and the people who are starting off to be very sick. Right? The people who are already very sick. They're all going to get infected on day 1. And so what am I going to do? So what do they need? So you're right, we have drugs to deal with flu, sometimes Tamiflu, whether we can or we can't. Most of these patients, it's a respiratory disease of flu. It's a disease of the breathing system. And so they're going to need assistance with their breathing. They're going to need to be put on the ventilator. Right? A ventilator is a machine that goes down the person's throat. It's a tube that goes down the person's throat, pumps in oxygen, takes out carbon dioxide, and breathes for them. And the hope is that the body will be able to fight the infection as long as we support the person throughout the infection. This person, if I help them breathe, then everything else should be okay, and hopefully by treating them and taking care of everything else, they will be able to make it through this 5-day period and eventually make it. Fine. So I have X number of ventilators and I give them all out on day 1, because I have a lot of very, very young, very old, and very sick patients in New York City. Now what happens on day 2 and 3 who get sick? On days 2 and 3, I have everybody in the middle, those who started off more healthy. The middle-aged, healthier people, right? So they're only going to get sick on day 2 and 3. And now what? I ran out of ventilators. So you say, well, let me think about it ahead of time, because when they gave out all those ventilators on day 1 and 2, now not only are these the most vulnerable people to get the flu, the very young, the very old, the very sick. They're also the ones who the chances of survival are low. Meaning I can give all of them ventilators, but there's a significant number of them who even with the ventilator aren't going to make it. Particularly in comparison to the people coming on day 3, for example, right? The healthier group that comes on day 3, you're right, they'll get sick, but if I give them the ventilators, I'm making up a number, let's say 90% of them will make it, but if I give the ventilators on day 1, only 40% of them will make it. I don't think it's really 40%, whatever the number is, we're just using it for the example. But if I give out my 100 ventilators on day 1, I know statistically speaking that after 5 days, 60 of those patients are going to die, and only 40 of them are going to be saved, but I'm going to have no ventilators for my 100 people coming on day 3, whereas 90 of them could have been saved. So if you do the math, you're losing a lot of people. And then they ask the following question, well, who's going to be treating these patients? Medical staff, doctors, emergency room personnel, ambulance workers. Now, generally speaking, they fall into the healthier population, right? So, are they going to want to expose themselves to these people on day 1? Now they're going to take proper precautions, I get it. But it's still a risk. Are they going to be trying their best to treat these patients on day 1 and 2 because they're putting themselves at risk? I mean, it's a very infectious disease. They're not putting themselves at risk. They know this whole testing that we're doing. They know how many ventilators have been used on day 1. They know that they're not going to get sick until day 3 and 4. There might be a ventilator for them. So it's not just doctors and nurses and emergency room personnel. It's also all the technicians in the hospital, the custodians in the hospital. I mean, this is a virus. You need to clean it. You need a lot of staff who's putting themselves at risk to treat these patients. So what about them? So he said, well, you know what we can do? Let's set up a number of ventilators aside. We're not going to use them. We're going to leave them as an insurance policy for the first responders. So that to encourage the medical personnel to treat the patients in the best way possible, really putting themselves out there, they're going to be nervous to do it. But if they know that there's a ventilator waiting for them, should they need it, maybe they'll be more willing to do it. So we do the same thing when it comes to kidney transplants. So a kidney transplant, the average healthy person has 2 kidneys and can live very healthily with 1. So a healthy person can donate a kidney. Now, should that donor ever need a kidney? So the question is, are they putting themselves more at risk by having donated a kidney to having then needed a kidney later? The statistics say that no, it's not true. Because the likelihood is that if I'm ever going to need a kidney transplant myself, it's likely that both of my kidneys would have failed, not just 1. So the fact that I gave 1 to somebody else isn't really going to affect me. However, they want to incentivize me to do it. I'm a little bit nervous about it. And so normally, how do we allocate organs? Well, we allocate organs by level of severity of illness. We're going to give the sickest person the organ first. There's a list, unless it's a directed donation. But otherwise, there's a list. And there's an order to that list. And there's a waiting list. And depending on how sick the person is, where they get placed on that list. But a person who was a kidney donor, in this country now, it was not this way in Israel, but now it's also this way in Israel. A person who themselves was a kidney donor gets bumped to the top of the list regardless of the level of the severity of their illness. Is that fair? They're going to get a kidney before a sicker patient. So is that right? But on the other hand, this is something that they were guaranteed when they donated their kidney. This was sort of an insurance policy. This was a way to incentivize them to do it. So we have such a model in medical ethics that it's okay to incentivize people to do something that may not be risky, may or may not be something they might want to do by giving them more medical resources should they themselves need it. Now, we haven't had like a run on kidneys, like in this scenario, there's a run on ventilators. So what do you do? So there are a number of options. You can say, well, first come, first serve. I'm going to treat whatever patient comes first, and I'm sorry if I treated my 100 patients and 60 of them aren't going to make it. All I know is that there's a patient right here, right now, who needs treatment. The fact that in 2 days from now there may or may not be another patient I can't deal with, that I got to treat my patients right now. Or you can say, no, you can't ignore statistics. Statistics is real, you're right. They're not sick yet, but I know they're going to be sick. I have to allocate them. I can only give 20 out the first day, 30 out the second day, 40 out the next day. That's all I can do. You can then also leave a couple aside for the first responders, which you're running out of ventilators for day 1 if you keep planning like this. You could also say, look, I'll give them 100 on day 1. On day 2, a patient so this patient, let's say, has a 60% chance of survival. Patient comes in on day 2 with a 61% chance of survival, take the machine off this one, put it on the second one. Now the problem is that when I remove the machine from the first guy, he dies on the spot. Not on the spot, but pretty severely, pretty close. That's bad PR. That's bad ethics. It's also, we're not going to do that. That was not a possibility. So how do you deal with the situation? So there's a guy in our shul who's the CEO of one of the larger critical care companies in the country, particularly in the Southeast, Eitan Markets. So he was telling me, so they have this issue, and they never had such an issue. But based on epidemiological data, they can predict where there's going to be an issue. And because they have a network of hospitals, they are able to move ventilators from one hospital to another. And so he said they had to do this on occasion. They've had a helicopter ventilators from one hospital in maybe to somewhere else, because they knew, they predicted that there are more people going to be sick there the next day, and that they're going to need them. And because they have this network, they're able to allocate these things fairly. And so we only have a little bit of time. Yeah.
If I recall correctly, when penicillin first came out, there were limited doses, but Moshe went south, but for 100 patients needed it, he said, give it to the first, 50 doses, give it to the first 50. That's not something that you can retract.
You can't, so the issue is, like he says, where Moshe's logic is as follows. I have 50 patients that were available. They're definitely sick. Tomorrow I may or may not have a patient. So you have to take the certainty over the possibility. These are very difficult decisions to make. And they did it with when hemodialysis machines came out for people with kidney failure. People with kidney failure, so the kidneys filter the blood. It's one of the things kidneys do. And so a person who's in kidney failure can do hemodialysis, where we take the blood out and effectively filter it and give it back. So now it's a Medicare benefit. So we're guaranteeing every single person who has a kidney failure and renal disease a hemodialysis unit. That wasn't necessarily true back in the day. It's not true in England. If I'm not mistaken, England, Great Britain, the United Kingdom, I'm not exactly sure, that after a certain age, if you, whatever, I think 70, person who develops end-stage renal disease after a certain age, there are no dialysis units available for you. That's just the way they're allocating the resources. They said, we have X number of medical dollars, and we're going to allocate them in the way that we see fit. And so they're saying that's not a way that they see fit. Now, as our polite Harvey likes to point out, these allocation of resources questions are somewhat contrived. Because we keep saying we have X number of medical dollars. So that's just not true. We have a lot of money. We have a lot of money in this country. We choose to spend it in a particular way. The National Endowment for the Arts is very important. But when we fund the National Endowment for the Arts, and we don't fund the hemodialysis machine, so that's a decision that we made. That's a decision that we made and that we have to live with. No, it's not that we made it. I don't know if anyone's made it. But it's a decision that we as a society have made. We could decide otherwise. Now you understand, when there's a flu pandemic, or there's a terror attack, we're not going to build, we're not going to have enough ventilators for every single person in the city. That's absurd. That's completely a waste of money, because maybe someone will need it one day. But there is enough money to go around. These are decisions that we forced ourselves into. England and Great Britain could have chosen differently. They could allocate their resources differently. It's a choice that they made, and now they have to live with it. So how do we make these decisions in halacha? So these questions, now, I have a patient who, there's a good chance of saving him, and we said there's a patient who, there's two patients who I could try to save both of them, but I don't know, the chances are less. How am I ever going to make these decisions? What guidelines do I have in halacha? Now we said Chayei Shar and Chayei Olam are equivalent in halacha. That whether I'm fulfilling the mitzvah of Chayei Shar, Chayei Olam is both considered to be life-saving. And I know that no matter, as long as I'm engaged in the mitzvah of Pikuach Nefesh, I'm acting in good faith, that I'm fulfilling the mitzvah of Pikuach Nefesh. Okay, good. So it doesn't matter who I save. So intuitively, that doesn't sit well. Intuitively, that doesn't sit well. We want to be able to say, look, this person, you can give him Chayei Olam. You can get him back his life expectancy. Or give them both a week. It intuitively bothers me. So how do you find this out? So the Chazon Ish finds a source for this in a very famous Gemara Bava Metzia. Whether you've seen the Gemara Bava Metzia or not, you've probably heard of the story. Two people are walking in the desert, and one of them has a jug of water. And they are really far away from civilization, and they only have this one jug of water. Now, they're both dying of thirst. They could both drink from the water. They could split the water. And if they both split the water, there is no chance that either one of them is making it to civilization. They will both die. However, if one of them drinks the water, he stands a good chance of making it to the civilization and living. But if he does that, his friend dies for sure. So what do you do? So if you look at Source Dalet here, that's the discussion of Rabbi Yochanan, the second line. Look at the Tanya. Two people are walking, presumably in the desert. One of them has a jug of water. If they split it, they both die, because no one's going to get enough water to make it. And if one of them drinks the whole water, Megillah Yeshuv, he makes it to civilization, what do? So it's Machlokas Tanoim. Darash ben Torah, Mudlav Sheyishtu Shneihem, V'yamusu, V'al Echad Mehem, V'misaso Shel Chavero, he says, split it. You have no right to choose one over another. He says, you shouldn't see your friend die. Effectively, what is he saying? He says, I don't have a right to prioritize, to save me over him. I can save both lives. I can't make that choice. I'm not allowed to do that. Ad Sheba Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says, no, I disagree, and he has a proof from a pasuk. Because otherwise, Rabbi Akiva needs a proof from a pasuk. Which means that what? Just think about what that means for me. Rabbi Akiva says the Torah needs to go out of its way to teach us something different. Because if the Torah didn't go out of its way to teach us something different, then the Torah would have been right. So what does the Torah say? V'chei achicha imach. In the context of giving tzedakah. The Torah says you have to give tzedakah, and the point of giving tzedakah is not just to be a handout to someone. The point of giving tzedakah is to be able to rehabilitate them. The point of giving tzedakah is to allow someone to come back into the community. V'chei achicha imach. Your brother should live among you. Right? Some unfortunate episode happened to them. They lost their money. Something happened. I'm supposed to help them out so that they could come back into the community. V'chei achicha imach. And live back to the status they were before. That's why the Rambam writes that the greatest form of tzedakah is not a handout. The greatest form of tzedakah is helping somebody get a job. That makes a lot of sense. Because then we'll be able to, he or she will be able to support themselves, and now they can be better integrated into the community. That's the idea, to get them back. V'chei achicha imach. That they should live among you. So Rabbi Akiva says yes. But read the pasuk carefully. V'chei achicha imach presumes something. It presumes that imach, when I'm there, he will live with me. And Rabbi Akiva says, you learn from here, chayecha kol v'la chayecha varecha. Your life comes first. V'chei achicha imach, he gets to live with you. Make sure that you're there. Make sure that you have the ability to live.
What you didn't say, I believe, was that the canteen belonged to one of the people.
Correct. So I said, I fudged. I said one person is holding a jug of water. So, because the following reason. Because the Chazon Ish that we're going to talk about in a second. So he explains it. So Rabbi Akiva said you can pray. So why? What are they arguing about? So Rabbi Akiva is effectively telling you, well, if I didn't have a pasuk in the Torah, I would have said the Torah is right, you have to split. But now I have a pasuk in the Torah, you're allowed to drink the water. What are they arguing about? What is really this argument? So the Chazon Ish says as follows. He says, look, if we split the water, we can do it. There's a third option. There's a third option. Spill the water on the ground. Nobody drinks. Can't choose who to drink. Nobody drinks, and we both die now. So that's not an option. So what's the difference if we both drink or I spill the water out? What's the difference? We're both dead. He says, you're right. But if we both drink, there's Chayei Shah for the two of us. Right? I'm not going to die right now. I'll die in 6 hours from now. I have enough water to give me another 6 hours. And he'll get another 6 hours. So I can fulfill the mitzvah of Pikuach Nefesh. Remember, the mitzvah of Pikuach Nefesh isn't just me saving somebody else's life. It's also me saving my own life. I have a responsibility to save my own life too. I fulfill the mitzvah of Pikuach Nefesh when I save my own life as well. We sometimes overlook that. But when we split the water, we both get Chayei Shah. I fulfill the mitzvah of Pikuach Nefesh twice. And if I drink all the water, I fulfill the mitzvah of Pikuach Nefesh once. So if given the option of doing 2 mitzvahs or doing 1 mitzvah, you should do 2 and not 1. And there's no difference, he said, between Chayei Shah and Chayei Olam. Chayei Shah is infinity, and Chayei Olam is infinity. And so 2 infinities, right? I mean, each one's infinity. Not 2 infinities greater than 1 infinity. It's not going to work anymore, right? I have to use a different power. I use a different muscle. But doing 2 mitzvah is going to be greater than doing 1 mitzvah, and that's what Ben Betura is saying. Ben Betura is saying, do 2 mitzvah, don't do 1. Always out for more mitzvah. So that's what Rabbi Akiva is telling you. So the Chazon Ish explains that Rabbi Akiva is teaching you, and based on the pasuk. Without the pasuk of the Torah, I would have said it. The pasuk of the Torah is teaching us, you're right, that's 2 mitzvah, this is 1 mitzvah. But there's a concept known as hidur mitzvah. I can do a mitzvah in a simple way, and we talk about filling, where you can buy the simple parent filling, you can buy a fancy parent filling, you can buy a fancier parent filling. You can keep getting fancier and fancier parent filling. You can buy a simple etrog, or a nicer etrog, or a nicer etrog, or a nicer etrog. You can keep doing a mitzvah with hidur. You can do a mitzvah in a more beautiful way, or a simpler way. Now you fulfill the mitzvah regardless. You fulfill the mitzvah on the simple level, but the Torah says you should want to do a hidur mitzvah. I can do the mitzvah in a more beautiful way. That's what he's just saying. That's what Rabbi Akiva is teaching. You're right to fulfill the mitzvah of Pikuach Nefesh when you save a person's life even for Chayei Shah. That's true. But there's a hidur mitzvah. You fulfill the mitzvah in a more beautiful way to accomplish the goal. Remember, the goal is, the mitzvah is not to save a life, it's to do whatever you can to save the life. But the goal is clearly to save the life. That's a hidur mitzvah. I'm doing the mitzvah in a more complete fashion. Bishlemus with a hitter. And he says that doing, so now the option is as follows. I can do 2 mitzvot on the basic level, you do Chai Yeshav, save both lives, or do a hitter mitzvah for one person and save him and give him Chai Olam. And the pasuk is teaching you that that person's Chai Olam can take precedence over 2 Chai Yeshavs. Because you're doing the mitzvah in a more wholesome, in a more hitter, in a more beautiful way. That takes precedence over 2 Chai Yeshavs. Now, the question is it take precedence? It's not really 2 Chai Yeshavs, right? It's over performing the mitzvah twice or performing the mitzvah once. So it's really 1 versus 1 if you think about it a moment. What about if it's 5 to 1? What did Rabbi Akiva say that? 1 Chai Yeshav, 1 Chai Olam, or 5 Chai Yeshavs. Now what? I understand the 1 versus 2 because out of the 2, one of them is me. So out of the 2, one is me. So the 1 I'm going to get saved anyway. So it's not 1 versus 2. It's not 1 person versus 2 other people. It's 1 person out of the 2 versus both. So I don't know. What about 5 to 1? So this is not based on anything I've seen in the Chazon Ish, but my gut tells me, and this is like not based on anything, but my gut tells me that when he says that it's a hinder mitzvah, Chai Olam is a hinder mitzvah, it means that you're doing the mitzvah in a more perfect way, in a more beautiful way. You do that mitzvah even at the expense of 5. I'm going to get 5 Chai Yeshavs. I can't save anything. None of them will get Chai Olam. But the Chai Olam takes priority. And generally speaking, that's the principle that we apply. So we learned that Chai Olam, Chai Yeshav, no matter how much life we save, the mitzvah of Pikuach Nefesh applies equally. We know that the mitzvah is not necessarily to save life, it's to do whatever I can to save that life because it's not up to me. So therefore, how do we make these decisions? Well, we have to use our best judgment to say, well, what is it we go by? And traditionally, this is how the many medical systems work. Who has the highest chance of survival? Who has the highest chance of survival? And according to this Chazon Ish, that's what the Gemara is teaching you, that based on this pasuk. That without the pasuk, I can never say that. Without the Torah teaching me this specific point, I would never be able to say that on my own. And how can I choose one over another? The Torah is telling me that Chayei Olam takes precedence over Chayei Yeshav. But it's one of the messages I want to leave with is that the mitzvah of Pikuach Nefesh again is everyone can have a part in it. Because everyone has a part in doing their part. Whether I'm a medical professional, not a medical professional, no matter what I do to support it, to help it in any way, shape, or form, if I'm engaged in it, then I'm fulfilling the mitzvah of Pikuach Nefesh. And clearly it's one of the important ones. We'll pause here. I'm happy to take questions, but I'll do it quietly so we can move on to Myra without. Thank you very much.